Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Martin Helmantel to the program today, bass player for 7 Miles to Pittsburgh. How you doing today, Martin?
Pretty good. How are you, Lance?
I am doing excellent. Your second album, Revolution on Hold, just come out here in the States last Friday, I believe, on A67 Records, correct?
That's correct.
Fabulous album. The first question, I tell you what, I'm going to back up. I usually approach this like I'm somebody who is brand new to the band, and I'm gone to the record store and I'm flipping through albums, okay?
Right.
And I'm going through the S's, and I come across this album, 7 Miles to Pittsburgh. And I really tried to research this because I got a feeling you've been asked this a lot, but I couldn't find the answer. Where did the name of the band come from?
That's a good one. I mean, let's be honest. All the good band names are already taken, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we must have gone through like a dozen band names before, coming up with something that would, set people thinking. First of all, 7 Miles to Pittsburgh. It's the first thing that, like you said, first thing that people think is, how did they come up with that name? Yeah. Well, it's the funny story behind it was. Andrew Eld, who was formerly the lead singer for the Sleaze Bees, and he's a tour manager for Walter Trout, and he's toured the U.S. many a times. And at one point, he came across a little town called Blawnox, which happens to be 7 miles from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And there was a waitress working there, and he started talking to her, and she was always going on about once she made some money and a proper income or whatever, she would, it's only 7 miles to Pittsburgh, and for her that was the big city. So basically the song Pittsburgh is about this waitress.
Ah.
And the whole idea was we were recording the first album, and everything went smoothly. The music was there and everything was there, and the musicians were there, and there was no band name. So at one point, we just were listening to a song, and it started out 7 miles to Pittsburgh, and we thought, you know what? Let's just call it 7 miles to Pittsburgh. See what? At least it sticks. It has a nice ring to it, and you have to call it something. It's like Dave Grohl said, if I had known that this band would be successful, I would have never called it the Foo Fighters.
Right.
I would have come up with a decent band name. And once you become a bit successul, then the name makes sense, then everybody will, whatever you call it, 30 Seconds to Mars, or,
right.
What anybody comes up with, if it's just to identify with the band.
Okay, cool. Great story. That's a great story. Then the next thing I look at is the name of the album, Revolution on Hold. Sounds kind of intriguing. Where did that come from?
That's a good one. You notice that, there's many, you look at the propeller on the album sleeve.
Yeah.
That's from a graveyard, airplane graveyard somewhere in Nevada.
Mm.
So that's basically a revolution on hold.
Right.
That's not going to turn anymore. But we were talking about that everything is basically going in rapid speed, compared to the last 20 years, your mobile phones and your TVs and the internet and everything. And one thing seems to be on hold, and it's what people still can't get along for some reason,
Yeah.
We have all the technology. We have everything basically that we would be able to create somewhat, call me a hippie, but we should be able to create a better world than we have now, right?
Exactly. I agree.
And for some reason, that revolution's still on hold. Everybody's, everything's going in rapid speed, except for, getting along. And our way of I always say the only thing that brings people together from all races, from all nationalities, from all religions, whatever, is music.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of, we could have called it 7 Miles to Pittsburgh #2.
Right. Or Volume 3, like Chickenfoot did,
Yeah, we called it #3.
Yeah.
Or 5 or whatever.
Right. You mentioned the picture on the album cover. That was going to be my next question. Very intriguing. So did that tie in with the Revolution on Hold, or was that a different take on that, the propeller and the plane and stuff?
Well, first of all, you want the album cover to be like a striking image, you know, like something that people think, hey, this is interesting. What is it? You know, the first album cover, the first album we recorded with the three of us, Andrew, Joris, and me.
Right.
And that picture we saw, if you have the sleeve, you fold it out on the CD. There's three bisons in Yellowstone Park, and it happens to be friends of ours took that picture while they were on holidays, and it was just a striking image. You know, you just want something that speaks to people, and it looks nice. You know, you have so many. If you go through a record store nowadays, and you go through the rock or the metal or whatever, you see all these images that are, you know, so similar. You know, they have like a band logo, and there's skulls, and you want to stand out a little bit. You know, you want to do something different that still speaks to people and that still fits the music.
Right.
And for us, that's the most important thing, that we have an image that we can maybe tell a story. You know, a friend of ours, another friend of ours who happens to be a concert photographer, Arnie Zona, his name is, and he went to Arizona, which is, and on holidays, and he took a trip to Nevada because he knew there was like a big graveyard for airplanes, and he started taking photos there, and we were just going through his live shots, because he would come over and do take photos of us when we were playing live.
Sure.
And we looked on his website and said, hey, he does other photography as well. And then we saw this picture and we thought, hey, not too bad.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how we came up with that one.
Cool. You're leading my interview perfectly, because you mentioned how you recorded your debut as a three-piece with you, Andrew, and Zoris. How did Remco and Dirk end up coming into the band for the second album?
Well, when we did the first album, basically, I don't know if the story we have to go to the very beginning. I started writing music with Joris, and Joris is basically an instrumentalist. He can play the bass, he can play the drums, he can play the keyboards. He has everything in his studio. You know, he has the old Hammond organs. He has everything. He's got 3 different drum kits, from, you know, an old Slingerland from 40 years old to a brand new drum kit from Gretsch. You know, he has it all. He's got bass guitars, he got guitars. So basically, when we started recording, it was just him and me, just working on ideas.
Right.
And because I've known Andrew for forever, and so it's about time we start recording our original music. You know, we've been in cover bands, we did jam sessions and all that. And he said, well, you know, first of all, he didn't want to do it. He had no intention of starting a new band, so to speak.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he said, you know what? Just send me some demos. So we sent him some demos, and he liked it, and he started working on it. And all of a sudden we had an album, you know, and then all of a sudden we released it, and people wanted us to play live. And you know, there was our next obstacle, so to speak, and Remco is also the guy that played the keyboards on the album. Right. Apart from the parts that Joris played himself, was a very well-known Hammond player here in Holland called Wil Maas. He plays with Ilse de Lange. He plays with a lot of famous musicians. So we knew we wouldn't be able to take him on tour with us.
Right.
So one of his students happened to be a Hammond player also, and he suggested him, and he winded up playing in Andrew's Led Zeppelin tribute band.
Right.
And so he got we could try him out like that, and of course Dirk Bruinenberg we found simply because I've played with him for 17 years in my former band.
Right, an elegy, right.
Yeah, and he's one of the most let's say the one of the guy to go to when you need somebody to do a session. You know,
Right.
he plays House of Audio. He plays most of. He played on the guy from Magnum's David Reese's album, I think. Yeah. He played on all these albums in the last couple of years, but he's like a hired gun.
Right.
And he said, once I played him the album, he said, if you need a drummer, I want to do it.
Nice.
I said, I'll remember that. And we needed a drummer.
You got it.
And here he was.
Oh, very cool. I did read that you and yours were rather infamous for sending Andrew these long jams and stuff that he was like, what the hell am I going to do? You know, there's so much there to process.
Well, I mean, once you start with writing songs and you don't have a singer, you know, what's holding you back, you know?
Yeah.
And once he said, Andrew said, you know, he had these songs that lasted 6-7 minutes.
Yeah.
So what he just did, we just ended up taking out parts, making them shorter, and fitting the songs to his vocals, basically, and you know, and that's how the first album started, and really the reason why we ended up doing the second album almost a year and a half later, because we had all these songs left from the first album.
Okay.
You know, so a lot of people think. They say, do you know, your second album is a lot different from your first album. I said, well, it's almost the same session. So the first album could have been the second album.
You could have flip-flopped the tunes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because we had a lot of song sessions we did for the first album already. But we ended up re-recording them anyway because we had some new equipment. And,
Now, when it came time to do the actual recording for the album, were you all in the studio together?
Sometimes, yeah. Not all the time. I mean, basically all the bass and the guitar were done. Just me and yours. I mean, for the first one, I ended up doing 50% of the rhythm guitars. I did all the acoustic guitars.
Wow.
So for the second one, we decided to go back and just let everybody do their own parts.
Sure.
You know? Because well, basically, if you have somebody like yours to work with, once you start on an idea, a week later he will finish everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's all finished because he knows how to play everything.
Right.
So I said, let's not do that this time. Let's just everybody study their own parts and put their 5 cents in. And that's why I think that the overall sound of the second one is somewhat better, and it's the songs everybody got to put in there, like I said, their 5 cents in.
Yeah.
And it works for us this way, and we're already working on material for the third one.
Wow.
Because you never know when you're going to need a third album.
Right. Production, did you guys self-produce? You work with anybody else?
Yeah. We have our own studio.
Do it on.
Basically, all the engineering and all we just trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
We started out with simply doing demos on just a PC, and then we decided, we're gonna start expanding our rehearsal room into a studio, and just adding quality studio equipment like the good preamps and a good computer nowadays. You can do it a lot digitally.
Yeah.
All the drums were recorded analog, just old-fashioned way. So we put a lot of time into basically learning how to record. And the good thing about it is we had the time because we're our own record company.
Sure.
We don't have to. We don't have no deadlines, and the good thing is that while you're learning, you can keep the parts that you really like, and it's the fun thing about this whole process is putting out your own music and learning how to do it, the way you want to do it. There's no producer says you have to do it another way.
Right.
Yeah, I want to change the sound of the guitars or whatever. A lot has changed in since me and Andrew were probably the ones fortunate enough to still be selling CDs in the 90s and everything, and keeping in mind that Andrew sold 1.5 million CDs
Yeah.
worldwide, and Elegy sold 250,000 albums.
Right.
We were really lucky to have that, in those days. But a lot of things have changed. Nowadays it's the internet, and people can get their music for free, and a lot of things have changed, and a lot of things haven't.
Right.
We used to get screwed over by the record company and not make any money, and now we're just getting screwed over by Spotify and not making any money.
Exactly.
So we might as well just keep doing what we enjoy doing, and it's making music. And now everything, like the whole promotion, the pressing of the albums, we know where our albums come from. We don't have to wait for the first pressings and all of that stuff. We do everything ourselves.
Yeah, and there's no, having to make a video on your dime anymore, that the record company's going to bill you back for, and hope that MTV will play it. You put it up on YouTube, it's done.
Right.
Social media is just phenomenal for that,
That's true. Yeah. It's kind of hard finding the way of to the right people, That's why I've known Dustin Hardman, who's contacted you about the promotion here in the U.S. I've known him from the years when we were still working for the Dynamo Open Air Festival in Eindhoven. He would come over to visit every now and then with our dear friend Thomas Youngblood from Camelot. And we always kept in touch. And when we needed somebody to do promotion for us in the U.S., we contacted Dustin. When we needed somebody to do our promotion in Japan, it was released last month in Japan. It's actually the old record company boss that we worked with in the 90s for Elegy.
Nice.
So all these that's the only old contacts that still work.
Yeah.
The others have left the music business altogether for a long time ago.
Yeah, Dustin is a fabulous guy. I've gotten some tremendous interviews through him. So, yeah, we definitely want to give a shout out to him. I want to talk a little bit about... Well, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No. I mean, that's people that now, I've met him probably about 20 years ago, was the first time I met Dustin. And, he's one of the person. We have somebody here in Holland called Theo Samson. He's the same guy. He knows everybody. He's genuine. That's the people you want to work with. You don't want to work with some, like in the past, you would have somebody from a record company basically sitting in a suit, just making phone calls from his office. And these are guys that know the music scene. They know, and they talk to everybody, and that's just very important. And I'm glad that we can work this way instead of giving your product to a record company and God knows what's going to happen to it.
Exactly. The days of the guy in the suit in the office asking which one's pink is over.
Right.
I want to get into some of the songs on this album. I listened to it. Phenomenal album. Great album. Loved it. Top to bottom.
Thank you. Thanks.
First song, Bad Enough. Just a killer riff to open up with. I love the keyboard break. Can you tell me a little bit about that tune?
It's very simply an idea, a guitar riff that I'd been playing around with for forever, and it's kind of not, we couldn't just get for the first album, we just couldn't get the right vibe for it. But sometimes you just need a good Hammond organ to get that push. And basically, Bad Enough was I had all the parts, Even the unfortunate part of this song is that it had a bass solo in it, and it got cut out by Andrew.
Oh,
he said it's too long. I said it's too long. We're gonna cut that one out. But it's basically in the end we have Andrew more or less do the determine the length of the song, so more the arrangement, and he has a very good feel for it, because when we present a song to him, he listens like somebody would listen to the first time you hear a song, and he said he knows exactly where the vocals are going to be. And it's that the way this works. I've never worked like this in a band. It was always just going into rehearsal room and just working until you think the song is right, you record it, and then a few weeks later you think, maybe we should have just cut that solo part short, and that's why we that's a good thing about Andrew. He kind of like puts the brake on there sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
We end, but it's just a song that we played with, and you have to. There's a certain rhythm in that song, and you want it to flow with the keyboards, and I think the keyboards for this song are particularly, I wouldn't say awkward, but there's a way you can either, if you leave them out, the song will be the same, but if you put them in, it's just a little extra.
Yeah, exactly. I Feel Your Pain, I thought had a fantastic atmosphere. It's like, as I'm listening, I had headphones on. It's like I swear to God, I saw colors as I was listening to it. The sound is sort of sparse at times, but there's a lot going on there, even in those sparse parts. And Call Me Crazy, I swear to God, in some of those like more of the quiet parts, it almost sounded slightly Beatle-esque. Am I nuts?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear this, but it's kind of, you know, this song started out as just the guitar parts, just that little and I was playing around with it, and we recorded it, and Joris just added that keyboard intro and the bass part into it, and all of a sudden, because that's one of the songs that we had from the first recording sessions for the first time, that we said, well, what are we going to do with it? You know, it would make a nice acoustic ballad, but you know, we want to make it work. We have to put in some extra, and Joris came up with the perfect parts for like the intro, the way it starts, and you know, the outro with the guitars and everything. It's something that. Yeah, and that's the way we work. If it doesn't work, well, we put it aside and we started working on another song. You know, and once it's there, you know it's there.
Nice.
You know?
Next song was Think. My note here says total ass kicker. I love the clever lyrics and the way Andrew kind of spit them out, and that guitar keyboard duel was epic.
Oh yeah. Well, that didn't need much encouragement, to be honest. We asked Remco, said, you wanna, you know, these two sections we have here, you wanna do some solos? He said, let's start on them right away. And he did. And he spontaneously he recorded them. And then when we started playing live, he had to relearn them. He said, what the hell am I doing there? You know? So that's the fun part of and it worked out perfectly. And that just, you know, from one afternoon, especially, that was the first song that we finished for the second album. And it was the first song, we played some festivals in Holland, and we just needed some extra time because we only had one. We had a debut album, and it's like, you know, 45 minutes, and they want you to play for an hour, so you add maybe one cover song. So we took, and you know, instead of getting the, you know, the cliche songs that everybody plays, we decided, you know, we'll play Tom Sawyer by Rush. Nobody does that. You know, and we did that, and we needed just one more song, and we ended up finishing Think. And that was the one that we, you know, especially live, that's a killer because, like you said, there's so much going on for the keyboard player and the guitarist. It's a really cool rock song.
Yeah, and when you get those, I saw Yes a number of years ago, and at one point Steve Howe and Rick Wakeman got into a keyboard guitar duel, and my jaw just dropped. I mean, it was just amazing, you know.
Phenomenal players. Phenomenal.
God Only Knows. Nice light rocker. I love the kind of jangly guitar. It was sort of almost a departure sound from some of the songs on the rest of the album. But it flowed, and which led me to a question. Did you guys pay attention to how the album tracked? Was tracking important to you, how the songs flowed?
Not really. And I mean, we the way we write songs is just we finish them. And at one point you have to come up with, you know, what's going to be the running order on the album. Yeah. And that's kind of, you want to, and it's true what you say, you don't want to start with all the rockers and then stop with all the with
the ballads,
the ballads or whatever, the somewhat less heavier songs.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of we had a debate about should Olympus be the first song or should be Bad Enough be the first song. So that was the only thing that we weren't sure about what would be the opening song. The rest pretty much we had mapped out, So it's funny that you said it's kind of a laid back song, and you read the lyrics to God Only Knows, and people think it's a religious song. Well, it's not really. It's about child abuse in the Catholic Church. So you reap what you sow, and it's it kind of gives a different twist to the lightliness of the guitars and the song, and there's some heavy lyrics in there.
Yeah, the subject matter is deep. And speaking of heavy lyrics, Only a Fool I found to be a powerful song with a powerful message as well.
Right.
And that's the last. I mean, I could ask you questions about every song, but that's the last one. Can you tell me a little bit about Only a Fool?
Also a song that I had for lying around for a little bit, basically the guitar riffs, and that only needed the fine tuning. But when Andrew came up with I'm trying to think what the first. We had a working title that was completely different, and because of all the politics going on worldwide, like we said, the revolution on hold. The only thing that's on hold is these stupid politicians are still running our lives, basically, and that's kind of like Only a Fool. It's read the lyrics and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's a somewhat heavier song,
right.
And it also needed a heavier lyric.
A little darker too. Yeah. Good stuff. Talking with Martin, bass player from 7 Miles to Pittsburgh. Their new album Revolution on hold, out worldwide now, available everywhere. Any touring plans, Martin?
Touring plans, we have to pretty much wait for Andrew right now. He's on tour with Walter Trout. He's tour manager / guitar player / lead singer / bus driver, everything.
Yeah.
And when he's going to come back, he's going to be on the road with Kenny Wayne Shepherd for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then afterwards, we're going to be doing a couple of shows and hopefully pick it up again in the new year.
Nice. Okay.
And and hopefully do some festivals next year also.
Cool. If you can, pass this on to Andrew. I was a huge Sleazebees fan. I was all over that album when it came out.
Yeah.
There's a rock station. I live in Vermont, which is right near. I'm a couple hours south of Montreal, Quebec.
All right.
And there was a rock station we used to listen to out of Montreal that played Sleazebees all the time.
Really?
Yeah,
cool.
It was all over that. So, but
very cool. Yeah. I believe Dustin Hardman was at the video shoot for Stranger Than Paradise.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll leave you with this little anecdote. When Elegy in '98 toured with Camelot, me and Andrew were in a band called the Heavy 70s, where we basically played cover tunes from the 70s rock songs.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of shows planned for the Heavy 70s, but I didn't want to be replaced by another bass player.
Right.
So what I said to Andrew, you know what? I'm going to be on tour with for a couple of weeks with Elegy and Camelot.
Yeah.
He said, we need somebody to, do tour management. He said,
right.
Oh, I'll do it, because, he needed. Yeah. So the first day he walked in the tour bus, you should have seen the look on the faces of the guys of Camelot, because they are all from Tampa, where the video clip for Stranger Than Paradise was recorded, and Tubin Thomas was even at the video shoot. So it's a funny thing that the tour manager at that tour at that point was somebody who probably sold more albums than the two bands touring there all together. So it was a funny situation.
Nice.
But that's how we got into tour management, just because I took him on tour in '98.
Very cool. Do you have time for a couple of quick fun questions, or do you have another interview lined up, Martin?
No, I have plenty of time today.
All right, I always like to wind things up with just some fun, silly questions. I'm hoping these are questions you've never been asked before. Sound good?
All right.
Late at night and you're hungry, what do you grab for a midnight snack?
Midnight snack, probably something. I don't know. I'm heavy into sports, so probably something with nuts.
Okay.
And something maybe with soy.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a very good question. Or just making a quick meal with something, or maybe a sandwich if I'm really hungry.
I'll stick with food for one more. If you could go back in time and eat one of your mom's home-cooked meals from your childhood, what would you have her make?
Probably something that I used to hate when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
My mom would make like pears.
Okay.
Pears, and she would steam it in kind of, they I don't know if you ever had that recipe, but it was like a dessert. Mix it up with a bit of yogurt or something, and it was pears, and the pears would be really, really sweet because they were cooked in, I have no idea, probably in, red wine kind of, and I used to hate that. And now, if I get a hold of them, I'll buy a whole jar.
Oh, funny how your tastes change, over time.
Yeah. Used to never like Brussels sprouts. Now I love them.
Would you rather have the power to be invisible or to read minds?
I sometimes think I have the power to read minds, but invisible for a day would be very funny.
All right. Would you rather be stranded on a deserted desert island alone or with someone who never stopped talking?
Oh my God. Probably someone who never stopped talking, because it kind of gets lonely. Depends on who it is, though,
All right. Do you remember your earliest musical memory involving music?
I do. Yeah. It was my uncle had an old Western guitar, and my nephew taught me how to play Smoke on the Water.
Okay.
And things have never been the same since.
There you go, life-changing.
Yep.
If they were to make a movie of your life, what actor would you pick to play you in the movie? And it's your life, you movie, you can choose anybody.
That's a very good question. And I'd probably choose Johnny Depp just to make my wife happy.
Okay. A lot of guys say that, too. They go with the actor that would make their wives happy. And a lot of guys pick Johnny Depp.
Probably if he would play the starring role, I get to record the soundtrack with him.
There you go.
Have him do some rhythm guitars.
There you go. Perfect. Last question. You're predominantly known as bass. We talked about all the instruments you play. What makes a great bass player?
Well, I've been asked this question a few times, but people always think that my favorite bass player is somebody like Billy Sheehan or, Stu Ham or Victor Bailey or anybody. I like a lot of bass players. Basically, my favorite bass players would be, Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy or Michael Anthony from Van Halen, or that are known to be, or John Deacon from Queen. If the best bass player is the one that doesn't really stand out, you listen to all the old Motown stuff.
Yeah.
It's only a selective few bass players they took because they were so good and they could just hold that rhythm in the background, and that's basically what you do. And it's fun. I enjoy watching Billy Sheehan go off and do a solo, but 99% of the song is just keeping the rhythm.
Yeah.
So and I have so many favorite bass players that people say, why do you listen to the bass parts of Tom Hamilton from Aerosmith? He said because it's the foundation of a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it sounds boring maybe, but that's simply the way it is. If you're a bass player and you want to play lead, you should have been a guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The guy I always like to listen to, and I've grown to appreciate him more and more over the years, was Pete Way with UFO.
Oh yeah.
Great
Pete
bass.
Way, I met in Cleveland
Really?
when we played there many years ago,
Wow.
and he's just an all-out nice guy. I mean, Pete Way is an excellent bass player, and because listening to the old albums, it doesn't first of all it doesn't stand out as much, but if you start getting into it,
Right.
beautiful bass parts, and they just fit. And I could talk about bass players and about music for hours. I'd be that guy on the stranded island who wouldn't stop
Who
talking.
would never stop talking. Oh, well, I tell you, it's been a fantastic conversation with you today, Martin. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Once again, we've been talking with Martin, the bass player from the band 7 Miles to Pittsburgh. The new album, Revolution on Hold, out now worldwide. Can buy it at all the outlets. Check it out. And hope to see you on tour over here in the States sometime.
We would love that.
All right. Take care, Martin.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your
You're
day.
very welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.